In the word of the Psalms, we've been looking at Psalms 23 and we finished that yesterday. And we finished it in a way looking at this idea of being still. Hey, Katie, being still before God. And so, what better psalm to go to? I know we're leading up to Palm Sunday and Easter, and so it's easy to do some of those lament psalms, if you will, that were very, very clear, like Psalm 22, even. Which is very important. As you're reading through Scripture, you think about some of the placements of these. And Psalms 22 is a kind of a lament, but it's what Jesus spoke from the cross. So a good Jew could have said just the first few words of a psalm, and everybody would have known what psalm they were talking about. It was kind of like, how you might say like 5 words of a song, and everybody knows what you're talking about. Who let the dogs out? Everybody knows that one. Or hey Macarena, or a mighty bulwark, for the old hymns, and because he lives, and it just instantly plays in your mind. And that's the way the Psalms were. They were songs. And so the Lord on the cross saying, my God, why have you forsaken me?" would have immediately made them think of Psalms 22. But I want to look at Psalms 46 because in that passage is where we find those words, be still. And so it's important to understand, again, kind of like we did with Psalms 23, why we can be still, why we're able to find strength in God. And so we're going to look at Psalm 46. It starts out this way in verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. We'll stop there, those first 3 verses. But it so quickly just jumps to the point, doesn't it? God is our refuge and strength, very present help in trouble. It's this whole Psalm 46 speaks to our confidence as believers, how we can have confidence in God, and we can trust God despite the circumstances we might be going through, despite the issues, the fear, the anxiety, despite the world around us. In fact, this is the psalm that it was reported numerous times that Luther, whenever a difficult time would rise up for Martin Luther would say, "Let us sing Psalm 46." This is actually the psalm that inspired the hymn, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." All out of this. Wesley as well. John Wesley was known to speak about this one when he was trying to describe the faith of the Moravians. If you know anything about John Wesley's story, he was an Anglican minister, but he, in coming over to America, was on a ship that, I don't remember if he was coming to America or going back to England on a ship, but it was with a group of Moravians. I believe it was on the way over. But in this boat, they hit a storm, a very, very rough storm. And in fact, everyone, even the sailors, were fearful except for a small group of passengers who were a part of a Moravian church. They sat, they sang hymns, and they prayed together. And he talked about how in the midst of the fear, they had something that kept them from being afraid. Remember, we said it's okay to be concerned, but not to be fearful or anxious about things. And he went back to this psalm when trying to describe that, because God is, as believers, our refuge and strength and ever very present help in trouble, in times of trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Chapter 46, 47, and 48 are all 3. They're like a trilogy, if you will, of praise hymns, of praise psalms that would be sang together and rejoice together. He's our refuge and strength. That word present, by the way, well, think about a refuge. What's a refuge? A refuge would be a fort. A refuge would be a place where you go that's safe, that's secure. We talk about refuge cities, where somebody who's running for their life or that type of thing, that they have a place that they can go to find refuge, where they can find peace, where they can find security, so that then they can get their strength back, right? Refuge and strength. God is our refuge. Yahweh, the Creator, the Lord, He is the one where we can find refuge. When the world around us is storming and raging, and while there may be things going on in our lives, family issues, family matters, because the world didn't stop spinning just because we're under self-isolation. There are still countless issues. If you had a struggling marriage before self-isolation, it may be worse now. If you had kids who disrespected and talked back, it may be worse now. If you had family members who were ill, it may still be going on, right? My heart goes out to many who, and I can't even fathom what they're going through when a loved one is in the hospital right now. They can't visit. They can't be by their side. This last couple of days, some individuals that I am connected with, I can't say that they're close friends, but individuals that I know and I have watched as they have gone through that and suffered. With a family member that's passed away and they couldn't be by their side. We can pray for them so they remember, hopefully, and I don't know where they all stand with Christ, but that God is their refuge and strength. I also will throw in there right now, please remember to pray for my friend David. David and Michelle. David is fighting for his life right now, and he is a very close friend. So please pray. Thousands of people are praying for them, and we know God hears their prayer. But even in that situation, I have seen in the things that Michelle has posted that God is her refuge. And God is her strength. In the midst of this time, He has been there for them. Hey, good morning, Jason. Hope you're doing good. God has been their refuge and their strength, an ever-present help in times of trouble. But that refuge, I love that word then. So ever present, so very present. That's what the ESV says is very present. Some say ever present. But present, that word actually, it doesn't, when we think present, we think like it's there, right? Presence is, a present help. Present would be it's here, it's around you, it's evident. Well, it actually, the word means more like it's proved. So think about that. God is your refuge and He is your strength, and He is a proved help in times of trouble. He has proven Himself over and over and over again to be there for you or for countless others who have gone through things in their life. He is an ever-present, a proved help in times of trouble. The other thing about that proved help is it, to me, it speaks to God's willingness to be called on in our times of trouble. He's willing. He's saying, I am here. I want to be your refuge. I want to be your strength. Focus on me. Take your eyes off the storm. Take your eyes off everything else, the individuals speaking negativity into your life, whatever it is, and focus solely on who I am. When we get distracted on that, it's easy to give in to fear. I think of the picture of Peter, right? Walking on the water. When his focus was on Jesus, the one who called him with his very voice and said, come. Peter focused on Jesus and did something no other human being other than Jesus had ever done before, and that was to walk on water. Not frozen water, right? Okay, so maybe you've done that as an ice fisherman, but he walked on water. But when his focus came off of Jesus, he began to worry and he began to sink. But even in that moment, he cried out to Jesus, who was there and was willing to catch him. He is the proven help in times of trouble. You know, it reminds me also of the Proverbs. So Proverb 18:10, there was an old song we sang on this, but the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and they are saved. He is a proven help for us in times of trouble. Therefore, because he's a proven help, therefore, we will not fear. There's a decision, there's an act that I'm not going to be afraid. Even though the earth gives way all around us. Though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, right? And then this next line, so verse 3. So here's something to think about it. There's a commentator who, when they looked at the original Hebrew, they said there's somewhat proof, because the Hebrews didn't always include every word. Just like sometimes when we speak, there's colloquialisms that are left out. And he goes, it almost had this idea that the last line, verse 3, that it was because of this. So here's kind of the idea of that, all right? So think about that we have a confidence that there's a turn, that therefore we fear, therefore though the mountains move, bring it on. That's what the commentator said from like hundreds of years ago. And he goes, it's almost like the psalmist, the translations made it very anticlimactic. It just was, therefore, if this happens and this happens, this happens. He goes, there's proof to make it feel like verse 3 should have been because of all this, and even though the world is falling apart around me, and even though the mountains are moved and they fall into the heart of the sea and all of that, bring it on, because even when the mountains roar and foam, even though the mountains tremble in the swelling, bring it on, because my God is with me. You're right, Katie. It's a decision that we have to make daily, right? Paul talked about daily dying to self, daily dying to fear. Every moment, every morning, reminding ourselves who's walking across the water in the midst of the storm, telling us, peace be still. He's there for us, guiding us, directing us, giving us peace, so that even in the midst of a storm, we can say, bring it on, because my God, Jehovah, he is my refuge and strength, a proven help in times of trouble. So I pray that speaks to you today. I pray that gives you some strength today as we start our day out with another morning of life, a unique life as we know it right now, through these self-isolation, quarantine, stay-at-home orders, all of this stuff, so that in the next few weeks, as they say, some of the news may get grimmer and grimmer, but that we will still find our hope, our refuge, our strength, our proven help in times of distress and trouble, found only in God through his Son, Jesus Christ, and that testament of the Holy Spirit that's in us, saying, peace, be still. So that we, even when we don't believe it, right? Even when we don't feel it, that we can say to the storm, bring it on, because greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. My God not only has my back, he goes before me. There's an old monk, an old prayer. I want to say it was St. Francis who prayed a prayer basically of He's always ever before me, ever behind me, ever to my left and ever to my right. He is above me, He's below me. My God is ever with me. May that be our prayer today. May we find a new way to sing that in our very hearts, that God is with us and He is a ever present, proven help in times of trouble. Praying for you. If there's anything you need, anything we can do, please don't hesitate to let us know. Love you all. Have a great day.